Okay, you're on the air.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the February 18th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. This meeting and work session are being convened in accordance with the Governor's Executive Order number 202.1 issued March 13th, 2020, which suspends certain provisions of the New York State Open Meetings Law to allow a municipal board to convene a meeting via video conferencing. In accordance with the executive order, the public has been provided with the ability to view tonight's meeting, and a transcript will be provided at a later date. And notice of this meeting has been posted on our websites, the bulletin boards, Warner Library, the local papers, and on the village's Facebook page. This evening we have a full agenda, but before we get to that, I will do roll call. Matthew Brennan.
Here.
Edward McCarthy.
Here.
Aaron Carney.
Here.
Kirsten Harries.
Here.
Lindsay Krakauer. And we have all of our staff and consultants. On the agenda, first is a draft resolution for Stevens and Kent House LLC. This is their final subdivision plat approval. Then we have GTY New York Leasing Inc., which is a continued public hearing for their amended site plan. And we have Yvonne and Sonia Vakusik for a continued public hearing for a proposed subdivision at 143 Weber Avenue. And then continued public hearing and draft resolution for Connor and Elizabeth Ginley at 5 Evergreen Way for a proposed single family residence. Fifth on the agenda is continued public hearing for the Edge on Hudson Riverfront Development Block A site plan approval. The tree appeal from Ms. Gunnison at 12 Millard Avenue has been withdrawn. An agreement's been reached with the Tree Commission for now, anyway. And then we have Tapsee Realty with a preliminary presentation at 47 Clinton Street for a change of use proposal. And then another preliminary presentation at 135 Beekman Avenue for a proposed multifamily building site plan approval. And then yet another preliminary presentation for 7 Birch Close, some proposed changes to an existing single family, which will have some wetlands and water course implications. So with that, we start with Stevens and Kent House LLC, and I see Mr. Schnaufer is on. Hopefully I pronounced that close enough. You're muted, Mr. Schnaufer. You're muted.
Let me click it. Is that better?
There we
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, John Schnaufer representing Stevens and Kent House and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. We're on for a resolution tonight for approval of the final plat. At the last meeting, we were requested to make changes to the notes on the plat. And notes 8 and 9 have been added to the plat. The language was run by the village engineer, who suggested that the village attorney approve the language, and the village attorney did with an edit. And those two notes now, note 8 reads, the public water mains within the boundary lines of the parcel shown hereon are in Mechanical Water District number 1, owned by the town of Mount Pleasant. and the town has an easement to repair, replace, and maintain same. The public water mains shown in County House Road and in Bedford Road are owned by the Village of Sleepy Hollow, and the village may repair, replace, and maintain same. Note 9 states the public sewer mains shown hereon are owned by the Village of Sleepy Hollow, and the village has an easement to repair, replace, and maintain same. The other change, a minor one, a note on the map. The note was proposed sewer line to serve the Japanese shrine. That was changed to potential. They were the requests that were made, and the final map now has the notes that were requested in the form that the notes were requested. And with that, I would seek approval of the resolution. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
No questions. Clinton, David, are we all set with the resolution?
Yes, Madam Chair, you have the board had a resolution presented before it. We've slightly edited the resolution to include some of the recent email correspondence between the applicant and the other Mr. Smith, and also the village. And we have eliminated the second condition relative to the notes being placed on the plat, which Mr. Schnaufer has indicated has been done and we verified. So you do have a resolution that you can act on.
Okay, so I move to approve the resolution. Can I get a second?
Second.
Kirsten Harries has seconded it, and we'll go around for the vote. Lindsay? That was an aye. Aaron?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Matthew?
Aye.
Okay, so resolution so passed.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good
evening,
night.
everybody.
Okay, second agenda item is GTY New York Leasing Inc. Is the applicant here?
Looking, I don't see anybody. If you were there and I don't see you, raise your hand, please.
While Sean is searching for the applicant, since this is a public hearing, I will move to open the public hearing. Can I get a second?
Second.
Lindsay, second. Kirsten?
Aye.
Aaron? Ed?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Okay. Other than the applicant, are there members of the public here to speak on this 215 North Broadway amended site plan?
I have one hand raised, if you'd like to speak. James Vassiletti.
Mr. Vassiletti, do you have a comment on this GTY New York Leasing Inc.? Okay, if not, the applicant's been, is supposed to be before the zoning board last evening. They have been adjourned until the March 18th 2021 meeting. So likewise, we'll adjourn this hearing until our March planning board meeting. So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Kirsten is second. Lindsay,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Okay, so this application's adjourned until March 18th, 2021. Next applicant, 143 Weber Avenue. Likewise was supposed to be before the planning board last evening. Or I guess they weren't supposed to be before the zoning board, but they have applied to be in front of the zoning board in March. So I will open the public hearing for this proposed subdivision preliminary plat. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, Ed has seconded. Lindsay?
Aye.
Kirsten? Aaron?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Okay, anyone here to speak to 143 Weber Avenue? I understand the applicant is not here. If not, I will move to adjourn 143 Weber Avenue until March 18th, 2021. Can I get a second?
Second.
Matt has seconded. Aaron?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Kirsten?
Aye.
Okay, so hopefully we see the Cusick applicant in March. Next is a continued public hearing for the 5 Evergreen Way proposed single-family residence. I have moved to open the public hearing. Can I get a second?
Second.
Ed is the second. Matt,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Kirsten, Lindsay.
Aye.
Okay. So I see Mr. Ginley and who is speaking?
This is Ralph Mastromonaco. I don't know if you can see me.
No, we don't see you, and you appear as Michael Dobler.
Right, yeah. I don't know how to fix this, but I've never seen this happen before. But this is Michael works in our office, and I've appeared before you last month.
Yep.
Is
that a cat?
Let me try stopping the video and starting it again. I don't know what it is. It might be something on the host side, but I'm unmuted and my video is on this side. But in any case, I did listen to the work session, and I believe that based on our earlier meetings with your board, that we've done just about everything we needed to do. And if there are any questions about the architectural plans and your role in reviewing those plans, it would be, hold on one second. No, my video is not working still. I don't know why. But I did hear that you would consider possibly approving the site plan, and then whatever architectural review you have to do, you would do that separately. So I don't know if you have any comments at all or questions, or if Mr. Nattarelli and I have spoken about the site plan, if there's anything missing. I think we've done absolutely everything except one thing, which was agreed that we could wait off until the weather was better, and that was to do a test hole in the property. So if there's any support for taking care of the site plan approval, we would appreciate that. And if there, your architectural review could come later, would be something that you could decide later.
One question or clarification I had was, and thank you for the updated architectural elevations that we received today that did have more annotations and notes on them. That was appreciated. Just to confirm that those drawings have a higher level of detail on them than the elevations, I think, provided by the modular company. So I'm assuming that those are because some of those elements are going to be built in the field after the components are delivered on site. Are we to assume that the detail, as we see a detail in those drawings, is the most accurate and current versus the other elevations provided?
Well, this is Ralph Mastromonaco speaking. We're dealing with the site plan. I believe that the architect can handle that question. If you could bifurcate this meeting, I have another meeting to go to in a little while. And I'm just hoping that we could deal with the site plan issue. And then if you can pass that resolution, I think the architect can take over on any of the architectural questions.
Who is the architect?
He's here, Mr. Capelli.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So would you like to discuss the architectural now? Would you want to defer that until you decide on any site issues?
Would you be able to just answer Ms. Harry's question?
Absolutely, 100%. So we were retained after Connor Ginley and his wife contracted for a modular home. There was going to be an attached front porch. There was going to be an attached garage whereby the modular company could not provide those drawings. And as a consequence of your requirements for architectural review, more enhanced drawings had to be prepared, which we submitted here because of the lack of detail as generally illustrated in modular plans. And you've seen that. So our drawings is the complete drawing, so to speak, which, how can I put it? It has the elevations of the garage attached to it, of the front porch, and it goes above and beyond what the modular company has provided. So our drawings would take precedence from your perspective point of view. Materials, methods of construction, sizes of windows, doors, things of that nature. It's our drawings that would take precedence. So hopefully that answers the question. Yes, originally there was vinyl siding that Mr. Ginley had wanted to build on the house, and subsequent to that, we made the changes to put the hardy siding on there, AZAC trim, and make it a non-vinyl sided house as you requested through Mr. Ginley, and it came to me. So Mr. Ginley approached me yesterday and said, you got to work real quick. We got to add some more information to the plans, which hopefully we've done to a degree to satisfy you in terms of, again, the materials and methods of construction to illustrate what's going to be built there. I heard some other during the work session as well. I was remiss of someone had mentioned light fixtures. I was remiss not to put the light fixtures on my elevations. I think Connor or the engineer, as part of their application, had submitted different cut sheets on the locations and the types of fixtures I don't want to say it's not a big deal. Certainly, we can add those to our drawings. But I think by and large, hopefully we've hit the mark with what you guys need to make a decision this evening.
Yeah, thank you for responding to our request to not use the vinyl siding. Even though we got these architectural drawings pretty late this afternoon, they do provide, sufficient detail as far as the porch and windows, etc. I don't have any other architectural questions, but I defer to the real architect on the planning board and other members. Are there any other questions?
No, thank you for the response. That satisfied the question I had.
Okay. Anybody else have comments on 5 Evergreen? Yeah, I don't see holding it up just for the light fixtures personally. I assume that they'll be in keeping with the handsome house that you've designed. So I would be comfortable with moving forward with the site plan as well as the ARB responsibilities. Okay. Dave, excuse me?
I just said I would second that.
Okay. David, do you have a draft resolution that you
Yes.
want to cover the
Yes.
highlights on?
Yes, Madam Chair, you had a,
Madam Chair,
go ahead.
did you open the public hearing? Was this continued public hearing?
I don't remember. I've opened and closed a number.
It's
No.
noticed as a continued public hearing.
So
Right.
you should certainly close it.
Okay. Did I open it?
Yes, you
God.
did. You did.
Okay.
David made
So I move to close the public hearing and I need a second. Ed, second. Matt,
Yes, favor.
Aaron,
Aye.
Kirsten,
Aye.
Lindsay.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is closed and now David.
Okay, so Madam Chair, the planning board had a resolution before it. It will be updated to reflect the additional correspondence from Mr. Mastromonaco, the submission of the exterior elevations from Mr. Capelli's office. There is in the last whereas clause, we've added a fifth clause. It indicates that you considered the factors set forth in the Village Code, section 450-67A 1 through 5, and that includes the planning board's ARB responsibilities. We have added, what I'll do is I'll read the resolve clauses, because we've added one from the resolution you had before you. So now therefore be it resolved, the planning board, after review of materials submitted, public comments and recommendations in the EAF, has determined that the proposed action is a type 2 action, is not subject to further environmental review, and be it further, and here's where we've added a new resolve clause. Be it resolved that the planning board has reviewed the plans and specimen building materials, the uniformity, dissimilarity, inappropriateness, and quality of design, and approves the architectural design of the proposed project. And be it further resolved that the said application for site plan approval for a single family residence along with accompanying stormwater management system plan is dated February 16th, 2021, and as may be subsequently revised to comply with this resolution, is hereby granted approval, and that the applicant maintain the endorsed approval of planning board chairwoman on a copy of the resolution upon the plan drawings as and when received, revised as necessary to show compliance with the following conditions, which endorsement shall permit filing in the Sleepy Hollow Department of Architecture, Land Development, Buildings, and Building Compliance, the Building Department, for purposes of obtaining a building permit in accordance with this resolution and all building code requirements, provided, however, that this approval shall expire 1 year after the date of this resolution if the following modifications and conditions have not been completed to the satisfaction of the planning board and the village building department, and the applicant has not obtained the required building permits or permits for construction in accordance with the approved plans. 1, the applicant shall pay the village of Sleepy Hollow all application and review fees as required by the village code prior to a building permit being issued. 2, documentation sufficient in form and substance for the village engineer that the list of items outlined in the village engineer's February 18th, 2021 correspondence have been responded to or incorporated onto the site plan drawings. 3, documentation sufficient in form and substance for the village tree committee that the list of items outlined in their January 19th, 2021 correspondence have been responded to or incorporated onto the site plan drawings. And 4, prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, an as-built survey shall be provided to the village building department, and any material change to the plan from that approved by the planning board will require the applicant to present the revised plan to the planning board for a plan amendment. That is the resolution currently before the planning board.
Okay, I move to adopt the resolution. Can I get a second?
Second.
Matt has second. Lindsay,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Kirsten,
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Okay, well, Mr. Ginley, welcome to Sleepy Hollow. Good luck with building your home.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate the approval tonight to keep the process moving along. And we're very excited to be moving to the area, hopefully this summer.
Great, you'll love it.
Okay, have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay. Next, I move to open the continued public hearing for Edge on Hudson Riverfront Development, Block A, proposed retail spaces, site plan approval. Can I get a second?
Second.
Ed has second. Kirsten,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Lindsay,
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is opened.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Andrew Tung from Divney Tung Schwalbe here with other members of the Edge on Hudson team. As you mentioned, this is a continuation of the public hearing for Block A. If I may share my screen. A quick refresher, Block A is just under 5 acres, located at the intersection of Beekman Avenue, the Roundabout, and Legend Drive. And proposed for Block A are a series of retail buildings, including a DeChico's Market, right at the corner by the Roundabout. Since we last met with you in December, we have been working to further develop the plan and details per your requests and the requests of your consultants. And we'd like to start this evening with an architectural presentation by Lucio DeLeo, the DeChico's architect. He will go through some new perspective views, some new precedent images that were included in our February 4th submission, as well as some further advanced floor plans and elevations. Lucio?
Lucio, you're on mute.
Need help, Oh, there he goes. Okay, here we go. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Lucio, I've got the perspective views and the precedent images.
Can you turn those off and let me share mine, Andy?
Okay.
Ready? Okay. All right, can everybody see this? Everybody see the perspective, the first one?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Share screen. Now? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. So we'll start by looking at the revised, updated perspective views that we've been working on. So this one is the Legend Drive, looking southwest on Legend Drive. The main entrance of the building. Let me just get my little pointer here. Let's see. Okay, this is the main entrance, and the brick is a brick structure with a granite, cast stone granite base. The building is surrounded by this sort of a pergola trellis system. Some of it is a roofed over walkway and some of it is open where plants will be growing. This is a sort of a night view of the main entrance, again, from Legend Drive to the supermarket and to the all these stores here. This is a view from Beekman Avenue looking at our building, and this is a staircase that sort of ties together and allows you to cut through the parking lot and get to the rest of the development. This is our loading dock. If everybody sees me pointing, we have roll-up doors. The loading dock is designed to accommodate tractor trailers and delivery, and the compactor system. It's all within this structure here, and the closed doors are able to still hold trucks of certain size inside of it. This is the walk-through, the pass-through as people park and they go towards the either the Chico supermarket or the other retail stores or back to Legend Drive. This view is looking northeast on Legend Drive. It's the end of our building, and it shows a few of these amenities of the building. One floor, this middle level, the mezzanine level, has what we call the beer garden. The upper level is a food court. You all have outdoor terraces, hopefully overlooking the Hudson River. This sort of skeleton steel frame will have awnings to allow for outdoor seating when the weather allows. Those are the perspectives, the exterior views. We've prepared some boards that sort of show where our thinking came from as far as the shapes and elements that we're using. So this board represents a few of the different cupolas and other factory buildings that we've been influenced by along the Hudson River. So again, images of clear stories, the brick, cupolas, finials on top of the cupolas, sort of overhangs. This sort of, from these elements and from other buildings like this, we've developed our vocabulary that you see in front of you. This other board shows just images of towers and how tower elements appear in architecture. These are all Hudson River buildings of one sort of another. This is downtown Yonkers. This is up in Garner Historical District, and the rest are Tarrytown or Sleepy Hollow. And the last of the image is basically this sort of skeletal frames and remains of buildings and brackets and overhangs, and again finials that we're using as part of our vocabulary for the building, for the staircase, the finials, the brackets that we have, various steel brackets along the building. The exterior of the building, again, it will be a brick. The majority of the building will be a brick. Sits on top of a cast stone, mimicking a gray granite that creates sort of a plinth around the whole perimeter of the building. And there'll be other various details that you'll see when I jump back to the elevations of where this stone appears. The roof will be a standing seam roof of a dark zinc color. It's a true standing seam roof finish. We have various timber elements, the purlings on the trellises. There will be Douglas fir material and stain of this color, if people can see up here. All the steel will be a dark gray color, and all the windows and doors will be a black frame. This sort of larger flat elevation shows basically some of the steel elements that will be colored at dark gray color, the standing seam roof, the base, the plinth around the whole perimeter of our building, which is this granite piece. This one particular lintel, welcome you to the whole complex, is stone. And this is the main entrance to the Chico's Market. You can see the windows will be black frame. And along the perimeter, this is where all those Douglas fir purlings will be sticking out, creating this sort of linear trellis that we have shown in our perspectives. You can see it here growing throughout. So those are the basic elements of the building: brick, stone, and steel. The few details of the finials and the brackets, all those are just the industrial, semi-industrial elements that we like to use and incorporate. And I think that's it. If anybody has any questions, Andy, if you want to say something else.
Could you go through the floor plans and the elevations as well?
Sure.
Those have been further developed.
The floor plans, basically, we've added all the dimensions to the building and a few other notes. So from Legend Drive, this is the main entrance to the supermarket. Obviously, this is a parking lot. This is the covered walkway that one would go for the parking lot into the supermarket, the liquor store, or the pharmacy, or the retail store. The loading dock, again, has garage doors, roll-up doors that encloses the whole loading dock. And you can see it's large enough to take 2 tractor trailers. And this is the indoor compactor that's totally away from the outside. The back of the building is all infrastructure, walk-in freezer, boxes. And again, the walkway that I was referring to as far as the trellis is basically this area here, and over the green section is the exposed timber purlings that will have plants growing. This section here is strictly an arbor trellis, pergola, just basically for more plants. Same thing is going on on the back of the building on this side here, and same thing going on along the perimeter of the retail store, pharmacy, future retail store. There's bicycle parking in various areas of the building. This section here. This section here actually is shown green, but there's a portion of it that actually will have cart storage for the shopping carts. There's no change to the upstairs except dimensions and areas called out. This is the mezzanine. I'm sorry. This is the mezzanine level, the sort of beer court that we call it. It has an outdoor terrace area that one can go out and eat or drink outside. And the floor above that, the food court, also has a wraparound terrace that people can go outside all the time. Within this 2-story space, you can walk around and look down into the space. This is an elevator that's glass enclosed, so as you travel up and down, you can look at the supermarket. The elevations, we just added more notes to clarify some of the elements in the architecture. Again, standing seam roof, these finials on top of the cupolas, the entrance tower. You can see the brick and the steel. This is the garage doors, the overhead doors, the roll-up doors, and the loading dock. Again, we're pointing, clarify where they are and what they look like. I think that's it.
Thank you, Lucio.
Welcome.
If I may take over the screen
Yep,
from
let
you.
me stop sharing.
In terms of the site plan, we've made some minor changes. The layout is basically the same. All our buildings along Legend Drive, central access drive to on-grade parking beyond. In response to questions from both the board and the consultants, we've done things like we've added a second set of bike racks here adjacent to the service entry. We've provided at the corner at the roundabout turning onto Legend Drive, a crossover walk, an ornamental plant bed, and the opportunity to add a seat wall along the front of that plant bed. We've added new lighting within the parking lot, or we've shown the lighting within the parking lot. And I'll flip to a photometric plan. Within the parking lot, we propose 20-foot tall parking lot fixtures, LED, full cutoff, and dark sky compliant, either double-headed fixtures, which you can see by this double photometric pattern, and single-headed fixtures where adjoining walkways or buildings. That will provide appropriate light within the parking area. This is just a graphic representation to show where the heads are. The photometrics actually show the light available in the spots between heads, which is sufficient for appropriate coverage. On the walkway, you may recall we added at the last meeting a walkway from Beekman Avenue down to the parking level. We've added two pole top structures, or fixtures rather, using the same fixture that's used along the street on Beekman Avenue and also within Legend Drive and the other Edge on Hudson streets. Those fixtures here is the pole top fixture, the Alencia decorative fixture at the stair landings will be a pole top, slightly different than the street fixtures. And in the parking area, these will be 20-foot tall, more understated fixtures, black housing, and full downlight, full cutoff, dark sky compliant. We've also made a series of, as Ms. Martinez mentioned during the work session, we've made a series of submissions to Woodard and Curran in response to both their December memo and a memo just received last week in February 12th. Those included additional stormwater analyses, water supply report, and a sanitary sewer report. We've been in contact, Mark Ratz of my office has been in contact with Ms. Martinez and will be providing additional information with regard to some of those comments. And we believe that all of the initial comments that were made can readily be satisfied. With regard to two new comments in the February 12th memo, we'd like to discuss those with the planning board. The first, they both relate to stormwater. And the first citing a section of the RF district regulations notes that new parking areas within the RF district shall utilize porous pavements or other approved measures to reduce rainfall runoff. This has been, as well as the the great balance of the RF district regulations, has been part of our planning from the very beginning back in the early 2000s for this project. As part of the RDCP approval, and in fact, as part of the DEIS and FEIS, we created a site-wide stormwater management plan and strategy to deal with turning what was a concrete slab and asphalt paving associated with the former GM site into a mixed-use community with significant areas of open space. And so in doing so, we, as part of that strategy, undertook under the redevelopment guidelines of the DEC and the New York State Stormwater design manual, we sought to reduce the amount of impervious area on the site directly by removing pavement. And our RDCP plan removed 31% of the, reduced 31% of the impervious area from the existing site. And per the Stormwater Manual and the Speedy General Permit, the water quality volume requirement of that permit and that manual is satisfied under a redevelopment site where an applicant removes at least 25% of the existing impervious area. And so we believe that by going to 31% over the 25%, that we have in fact satisfied certainly the DEC requirement, and we believe the Sleepy Hollow requirement to reduce rainfall runoff. We have as well undertaken other measures within the system, one of which I'll speak to shortly regarding removal of oil, water, and debris from the system. We've created within various open space areas, grass areas, other drainage measures, all of which will greatly improve the stormwater measures or the stormwater characteristics from the site, which is rapidly changing day by day on the site with new construction. From a traditional detention point of view, this site is somewhat unique, and from a quantitative point of view, actually, we seek not to detain the runoff on site because we are right adjacent to the receiving water. And so unlike most sites further up in the watershed, where you're trying to slow down the discharge to the receiving waters that eventually dump into the Hudson, here, from a strictly quantitative point of view, which is part of the runoff reduction equation, we would look to discharge directly to the water. But at the same time, we're looking to clean the water to provide water quality measures. Item 33 in the Wooden and Curran February memo suggests that oil, water, debris separators, oil, water, and debris separators shall be considered to treat runoff from the proposed paved areas. These types of separators have been part of the planning, certainly envisioned in the RDCP and memorialized in the phase 1 infrastructure that was approved by this board and has been constructed, and also in the phase 3 infrastructure, that is the streets to be dedicated to the village of Sleepy Hollow. In each of those catch basins within the streets are something that are called, not very poetically, snouts. And those snouts are hoods that sit within the basin that allow for oil and water to be separated from the stormwater before it discharges to the main lines in the centers of the new streets, such that there's oil and water separation in each of the catch basins along the drive. So for instance, as we look here in Legend Drive, each of the catch basins, such as here and here, are already installed with snouts. Further, we have proposed that for each developed site, all the stormwater that's collected on that site, this is a blow up of the utility plan or the grading and drainage plan, and these dashed lines are the stormwater lines, prior to discharging to the city system or to the village system, as all these sites do, the terminal catch basin, in this case, 2 terminal catch basins here and here, will also include these snouts, so that there's further oil and water separation from any stormwater that's gathered or collected on the site before that discharges to the basins here, which are also protected, but they are collecting water from the surface of the roads. So that consistent with our approach from the beginning, we believe that our stormwater runoff reduction measures and our water quality treatment measures both protect the individual sites, such as Block A, and also the overall road systems within Edge on Hudson.
Andy, once the snout parses the debris and the oil from the water, how does the debris and oil get removed?
I was hoping you'd ask. So this is a detail that usually only the engineers see, but it is a, let me see. So this is the so-called snout. What happens is that the water builds up, and this is a catch basin, cross-section of the catch basin. So the debris settles to the bottom. There's a sump that's 30 inches minimum from the bottom of the sump and greater than that from the actual discharge. This is the discharge pipe going out. So water, debris will settle out at the bottom, and it does have to be periodically cleaned in the village streets by village DPW, on the sites by Edge on Hudson. The purpose of the snout is as water, if water were to build up in this catch basin to this level, the oil will float on top, so that the water flowing into the snout, up into the snout and into the village system will be below the oil line. And the oil eventually settles to the bottom and becomes part of what's collected as it's either vacuumed or otherwise cleaned on a periodic basis. So it's a non-mechanical means of separating the water that will flow on a regular basis into the village system from the debris and the oil that'll be collected in the basin and then removed periodically.
Sean, is this snout design already part of the Sleepy Hollow stormwater management infrastructure? And is it part of the DPW responsibilities to clean the debris and oil?
So the first part of that question is anything new that's installed is installed with the snout structure, which is part of this development. But anything new in the village that's done, that is included. And the second answer is yes, the DPW does clean out these catch basins. They do have a schedule to do it, and it's done with a large vacuum truck.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad I asked my engineering question for tonight.
Yeah. So to return to the overall site plan, we also had the opportunity to review Dave Smith's February memo. Thank you for that. One of the main issues raised, which we've had discussion with members of the board and with staff, relates to the North Retail Building, what we've shown as the North Retail Building. As Lucio has described, we have great detail and program for the Market Building and the Market Retail Building. We have a tenant, the Chico's, who is anxious to bring his offerings to Sleepy Hollow. We on Edge on Hudson are anxious to have him come here as well. The North Retail Building, which we've shown preliminary plans for, was proposed as a single-story retail building. We don't have tenants for that building, and it was discussed in Dave Smith's memo that perhaps this is an opportunity perhaps there would be an opportunity to further think about this site, to perhaps have multiple uses on the site, perhaps to have a taller building here as it sits at the top of Tapsee Park. We share this, this thinking that perhaps this site might be set aside as a placeholder for a future building. We're envisioning potentially retail on the ground floor if tenants do appear, and the potential as well for office on a second or third floor, which would both add height to the building, diversity to the commercial activity in this location. We believe that, as Lucio showed you earlier, the further development of the footprint for the interior layout for the market and the market retail buildings shows a fair amount of back of house space. That's storage, refrigeration, mechanical space, kitchen, loading area, for which we initially provided parking in the surface parking lot. In speaking with Mr. McCarthy earlier this week, the village has in the past considered not counting support space in the baseline square footage that is used to calculate required parking. That is, required parking may be calculated on the space that's available to the public for retail. If we could show in an analysis that based on the size of the space, the anticipated number of employees, how those employees come to work. In this instance, we have DeChico's, which is numerous locations in Westchester County, has a good sense of its employees' mode of transport to work. Here, we're in the middle of the village of Sleepy Hollow and Edge on Hudson. We can anticipate a certain number of people walking to the store. We've provided bicycles for both the staff and for shoppers to come to the store. And with that analysis, Mr. McCarthy said that he would consider a reduction in the gross square footage that's used to calculate the parking required. With that, we believe that we can park for potentially a second floor of office and perhaps a third floor of office as well, because the office, as you may recall, has a lower parking demand than retail. There may also be other ways that we can provide for the parking for such a building as those tenants appear. So we would be, one of the suggestions Mr. Smith had would be to table, if you will, the north side for now, leave this as a placeholder so that we might proceed with DeChico's and its proposed market and market retail buildings. We would likely look to complete the site improvements within the surface lot, as some of those, the circulation, for instance, is needed for the access by trucks to the loading dock. There's drainage improvements, site utility improvements that we believe would most efficiently be constructed now, but that this building pad would be held as a placeholder, as I mentioned, for future proposal to the planning board when those tenants become more apparent.
It's John Stein. Can I jump in for a second?
Please.
So, thank you, everybody. And really thanking, again, John DeChico and Lucio for what I think is just an incredible presentation. But we've had some discussions amongst ourselves as the developers, and we've had obviously some discussions with representatives of the village. And I think what happened here, Andy, you put that back up if you don't mind. You can leave that up. I think what happened here is, often happens is that we've got, as we were looking at, A and B, we knew that we had, consistent with the RDCP, we wanted, and we think that Edge on Hudson and the greater village really deserve a great market. And we had located in this location on Block A where that market's going to go. So we were focused on the right intent here, but what we kind of got lost in looking at the greater opportunity for Block A and B, and in fact, Block Parcel C, which is listed on the bottom left as the south parcel where our construction trailers are. So after discussing with representatives of the village, we really went back as the developers, as the owners of the site, and said, okay, we can do better. How do we do better? We've got this fantastic building here of DeChico's, and we can really look at what we just are calling like an aspirational plan. So we recognized we fell short on the north retail. Just as Andy calls it, a placeholder. I think we just green it out for the time being. We move ahead with DeChico's. What I'm suggesting is we not focus on the north retail. Right now, we've got a beautiful plan with DeChico's. If the board agrees and we're ready to move forward, we just ask you to look at that, and we're going to come back and have discussions with the village and certainly this board and your professionals about what we can really do, whether it's, as Andy described, retail with office above it, but really look at this entire corner, really, A, B, and C, and figure out what we want it to be, and then come back. Right now, we know that we've got, consistent with the RDCP, we got a market in in this location. Couldn't have asked for a better job, at least in my perspective. And we're asking you to, work with us. We'll come back with you with a greater vision for what we're going to do for really what is a very public area and the entrance to our site and how we're going to fill that out. Right now, we'd like you to just concentrate on the DeChico's submission, and we'll come back with something else. As you can see, we're over parked now. Andy went through that parking analysis. I think when you look at loading bays, obviously they're not filled with people, so there's some very, very consistent thought as to that we're over parked. It's very rational very rational basis. We'd like to reserve some of that parking that's not being used by the market for opportunities to really enhance the balance of A and B, so that we have plenty of parking available. And that's really all we wanted to concentrate on. If you really want the details, we can ask Andy to dive into again those parking numbers or anything else, or talk back about the scuppers or
Snouts.
The snouts. But I thought that was fascinating. Thank you, Andy. I've never really gotten to that level of detail, but that was great. Very appropriate, but thank you. So I just wanted to share those comments with you.
Well prepared, thank you. The architectural detail that Lucio provided were well appreciated. And while we have this slide up, John or whoever, if you can describe for me, I'm not clear on tenancy versus ownership, all the piece parts of this block A, B. Can you describe for me who owns what and who's a tenant?
I'm happy to do that, Madam Chair. It's for the record, it's Mark Weingarten on behalf of Edge on Hudson. Essentially, right now, everything is owned by the same owner, Edge on Hudson Lighthouse Landing Communities, that has owned all of this undeveloped space at this time. The contemplation here is to create a commercial condominium. The commercial condominium allows us to have a condominium plan without a public offering through the Attorney General's office. That commercial condominium will be cut into units. We have not done that yet. We would have to do that prior to the certificate of occupancy for people to be able to occupy the space and utilize the space. When we do, I would suggest, based on past experience, that DeChico's will own one unit. That unit would be their market, and a portion of the half of the market retail building that they're going to be occupying there as well. They could split that into two units, but my guess is they'll have it as one unit. There will then be another unit, the larger unit, that will be the parking lot. That parking lot will service the entire development, and there will be rights within the condominium association for use of those parking spaces by all of the unit owners, including DeChico's. Not dissimilar to other condominiums that you've seen. So that will be a second unit, will be the parking area. And then the balance of the site will either be one or two more units. The question would be whether Edge on Hudson wants to combine the balance of the market retail building with as Andy just referred to, the placeholder development site as one unit, or if for financing purposes and others, they want to create two distinct units there and have a unit for half of the market retail building and the balance of the site as what they call the placeholder or the future development site. And that is how that would happen. There's a commercial condominium, there's a condominium association, and the rights and regulations that go with that are in those documents. Those documents go to the Attorney General's office, just like any other condominium. But as opposed to a public offering, we would expect a no action letter from the Attorney General, because this is a very simple form, and they would permit us to go forward with these plans. I hope that answers your question. If you want more detail, ask me what it is. If you would ask me with something else, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Yeah, that answers my question. The half of the market retail and the rest of the market building, are those definitely going to be a liquor store and a pharmacy? Is that a final decision, or is that still up in the air?
Peter or John, I'll let you answer that.
Those are the uses for those spaces.
And there's been some question as to the parking lot, whether you are considering doing solar paneled carports.
Yeah, that was something that was brought to our attention recently, and we think it's a great idea. We have to look into the feasibility of it. But to the extent we can accommodate that in here, it seems like a great idea.
If we decide to do that, Madam Chair, and as somebody who, I represent one of the larger companies in the Northeast that do this. In fact, they're about to file a very large one in White Plains for an open parking lot of many acres, much larger than this. It would be these are structures that would require us to come back to you to amend the site plan to permit that. So we are investigating it to see how it would work. We would have to come in, we would have to show you that the circulation works, that the drainage works, that, you know, all of the things that are involved in putting these structures into the parking lot. So we're not ready to do that at this point. We're going to be asking for a site plan approval for the Chico's portion of this and the market retail portion of this in the parking lot the way it is now, but we may very well be coming back with that because we think there's benefits, not just for the village, but for us as well, that these are, it creates covered parking, it creates, you know, electric charging stations. There's a lot of benefits to it, but we've got to go through the economics and talk to the providers on that. And that's going to take a little bit of time.
Okay, well, I, for one, would welcome that amendment.
We're taking it very seriously, and we are in touch with people who are providers. We are looking at it. It just doesn't happen that quickly. We're working at it. And then you have to, I mean, it's detailed, but we'd have to make a deal with, the provider would have to make a deal with Con Edison through the community, the deal that's out there. We'd have to go find users. There's a process to it in order to use the community solar program, but we're familiar with it, and it just takes a little bit of time, and we will in good faith proceed to look at that and see if it makes sense.
Okay, great. Any other questions? There was one comment that David Smith had raised relative to loading, and we're trying to understand why you would do any loading on Legend Drive versus doing it from within the parking lot, especially you've got the big loading bays for the market, but even for the market retail and you know, any future retail, our preference would be for the loading to happen within the parking lot and not on the thoroughfare.
With the North Retail building, both the market retail and the North Retail were anticipated to have their doors on Legend Drive. And as such, it was anticipated that they get most of their deliveries from smaller trucks. not unlike in any smaller downtown area. So we thought it would be appropriate for them to load from Legend Drive. With the postponement or the putting off of the North Retail Building, we may be able to just serve those. It would not seem that that loading space, which we located here, we may be able to provide for that loading in coordination with the Chicos, or they could load on the side. I think it's a balancing of where do people enter the store and what is the best way to get in to serve them. Those are not long-term loaders. It's stop and drop, as most FedEx trucks do. So that was the reason for locating it on Legend Drive.
And if I may, let me just add, and we've all seen this. It's not going to come as a shock to anybody. These package truck drivers, small vehicles, they park where they want to park. They double park. I've always found if you provide them a spot, it's a little bit better than double parking and running in, because they're going to park where they park anyway. And it's, they're typically in for 5 minutes and they come and go, whether it's a FedEx driver, an Amazon driver, or somebody dropping off, beer. They'll just park where they want. So yes, I agree with you. It's better to have them come in, but they do what they want anyway. So either we provide a small spot for them on the street, small area on the street, and they don't have to double park, or, we just yell at them a lot as sort of the operators, or the Chico guys can yell at them a lot when they come, and it's really controlling Amazon drivers these days or whatever. They do what they want. So I'd rather provide something than nothing. But it's completely within the discretion of the board, obviously. Sometimes life interferes with the plans.
Sometimes. Okay. Anything else, Sean?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay. We have the landscape plan, we have the architectural details, and I think some things Jennifer reviewed are open but manageable by Woodward Curran and our building department. Do we have a draft resolution for this, David?
Not at this time. We haven't been directed. If you'd like, we could have a draft resolution prepared for your next meeting.
All right, if you would, please. Okay, with that, I think we can adjourn the.
You also have a comment from the public?
Oh. Okay, is that Ms. Emmons?
Nope, it's Melissa.
Okay. Okay, that's on my second screen.
Oh.
Melissa, did you have something to say? You're muted.
Hello, it's Melissa Lohman-Wild from Mothers Out Front. As you know, Mothers Out Front is a group working to preserve a livable climate for all children. And I wanted to say to Mr. Weingarten, we're thrilled to hear that you're considering solar powered carports for the parking lot at DeChico's. That's just great news. And I really encourage you to make it happen. That would be fantastic. I also, we appreciate that DeChico's is really considering sustainability as a priority, and just want to reiterate the idea of avoiding use of gas in the building of the market and considering alternative uses of power such as geothermal. as a resident, also of Beekman Avenue, I did have a question about the plans for the parking lot and just wanted to make sure that I was reading them correctly. The cut through from Beekman that has stairs going down to the parking lot, I wanted to know if there's a designated crosswalk, or it looked like maybe there's a painted walkway on the parking lot so that people aren't emptying at the bottom of the stairway into traffic. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I can address the last question. Yes, there is a designated crosswalk. You come to the bottom. Let me share my screen again. So you come down the bottom of the stair, and there's a crosswalk that brings you across into the main entry, the pass-through that gets you to DeCicco's and the Market Retail Building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm sorry if Andrew, did you say that there are no pervious paving in the parking lot?
That's correct.
Okay, any other comments from our public, our professionals, our board members?
I think you might have had one more. Sarah, did you have something?
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, thank you. I'm Sarah Smiley. I live in Sleepy Hollow, and with Melissa, I'm also a member of Mothers Out Front. So I just wanted to say that I agree with the points she already made, and want to congratulate DeCicco and Sons on everything they're already doing to make their buildings energy efficient, and also on what looks like a really beautiful design. Science tells us that we know we need to stop adding greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. And one critical way of doing that, and most cost-effective way to do that, is to avoid fossil fuels in new construction. So that's why energy efficiency is so important in the buildings. And the extreme weather we've seen this past week across the western and southern states and the lives that have been lost is just one more example of how real the climate crisis is. And I know we can't solve that alone here, but everything we do does really matter. So I think with every new building, we should do whatever we can to eliminate its carbon impact and to add renewable energy wherever possible, which I'm very excited to hear that you like the idea of doing solar carports and community solar. It would have a really big benefit to the community. And I also just wanted to add to that, I do really appreciate the extra bike racks for the staff at the market and for residents. For staff who may not be able to, who may have to drive to work there, I hope you'll consider EV charging stations as well in the parking lot so they can charge while they're at work, as well as for anyone who's coming from farther away and wants to stop at your stores. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Melissa, for your comments and for joining our meeting this evening. If there are no other comments, I move to adjourn this hearing until March 18th, 2021. Can I get a second?
Madam Chair, can I ask why we wouldn't be closing the hearing if we're ready, if you're authorizing a resolution as a question? If that's what's coming at the next meeting, I think it would be appropriate to close the hearing and move to a resolution at the next meeting, but just inquiring.
It's
think we did
typically
that.
been the practice, yeah, but it's typically been the practice of the board that when they're ready to approve a resolution, that they adjourn the public hearing until the resolution's before them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that has been our practice. I think we made an exception one other time for you, Mr. Weingarten, and then it ended up just getting everything a little bit more confused. So I'm more comfortable adjourning until March 18th, 2021. Can I get a second?
Second.
Kirsten seconds. Lindsay,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Okay, so we will see you March 18th.
Thank
And
you.
we're very excited about DeChico's coming, so we'd like to get things going sooner than later. So
Excellent.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. As mentioned, 12 Millard Avenue has withdrawn their tree appeal. So next up is a preliminary presentation from Tapsee Realty for 47 Clinton Street, a proposed change of use. Who will be speaking? Is it Mr. Vasilati? If so, you are muted and we can't hear you.
Unmute. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, we're talking about here 47 Clinton Avenue. There were two drawings I recently uploaded to speak of what we want to do here. And my son, I don't see him on here. Is Christopher bad? Christopher?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Could I first upload these two drawings?
Sure.
Let's look at it for a second, Chris.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, this is not the one I wanted. This is, where's the plan from 1962?
Okay.
This is a drawing I was, got to get it a little smaller. Okay, anyhow, this is a drawing of the site here in 1962, where we had two apartments and a store. And that was the existing use for, I'm not sure how long. Building's 100 years old. This is at least 60 years old. Then it's what we basically want to do is just restore the building back to this 1962 arrangement. Two apartments on the left and maintain the laundromat on the right-hand side. There's also another drawing from 1993. Chris, did you pull that up? This is a drawing that was 1993, an approved drawing for all the apartments on the upper floors. And that was in 93 with no request for parking. Then, which I don't have with me right now, unfortunately, there's another drawing from about 4 years ago where the entire first floor became a laundromat. They took the apartments out, whole first floor a laundromat. So and again, there's no request for any parking, any zoning variances, anything. I mean, the building's been there 100 years. It's totally non-conforming, but there's not much we can do about it. There is no on-site parking. And we just want to basically take it back to its original condition from 60 plus years ago. Other than that, I mean, it's kind of straightforward what we're looking to do. Not a lot to be said, except that we want to put two apartments in and make the laundry smaller. And I know that's kind of brief, but that's basically the concept. So I'll defer to somebody from the committee.
Brief is fine. So even though historically there was a similar arrangement in terms of apartments next to a commercial space, it's still outside of the planning board's authority. So we still have to refer you to the zoning board and to
just
address
wondering-
not only the parking, but other existing non-conformance.
But it's all existing non-conforming. Why would I go for a variance?
That's just how the process works.
Okay. Well, in that case, then this is going to have to be a board case. So you can't accept this as it is.
I do not believe that we can. Clinton, do you want to weigh in?
When did the laundromat expand?
It looks to me from the drawing I was able to get about 4 years ago.
I'm sorry.
I was to say maybe about 4 years ago with no request for parking.
It is a change of use, and it's a change in the character of the use in a non-conforming building. So I believe it does require zoning board approval.
You know, this is your situation, you know, how you want to go forward. If that's necessary, we're going to have to go forward that way. But it's just that this was the use that's been there, and they're going to say to me, you got to provide parking. I can't provide any parking. You know, unless they want to get rid of the, leave the laundromat the way it is. I'm not sure whether they would want to do that. They're looking for the apartments.
Pardon me?
They are looking to put 2 apartments there. I actually have a scheme with 4 apartments and omitting the laundry altogether. But I believe they want to maintain the small laundry, the client. Hi.
So Clinton, you're in agreement that they need to go before the zoning board.
I believe so.
Okay.
Because it is a change of use in a non-conforming building.
But the apartments are a permitted use in the area. It's not like I'm looking to bring in some factory or something into a residential district. Well, I don't want to tell you your business, but I just don't see a need to go to a zoning board.
That's my thought about it. Sean, do you have any thoughts?
No, you're correct. That would require the zoning board's approval. And also, just for the record too, the last permit did not expand the laundromat. The permit was to repair the storefronts. It had nothing to do with the use and occupancy.
I'll find the drawing in the office and upload it to you just so you can see what I had there when they expanded the laundromat. But if they expanded the laundromat into if they expanded it by taking the 2 original apartments out, wouldn't they request parking?
Did you say it was you said it was 1962?
No, it's since the 2016 application that showed the whole first floor being a laundry.
That's what it is.
What's that?
The whole first floor is open.
It is. I understand that, but I'm saying they didn't request any parking for that.
It did not require it. It didn't expand the use.
No, it expanded because they took out the 2 residential units.
No, that did not happen in 2016.
I think it was in the 90s.
Okay, let's say it was in the 90s.
Yeah, it was in the 90s, Mr. V.
Go ahead, Sal. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I just jumped in, but I think he did that. He did that in the 90s. The drawings that I gave you were from the 90s.
Yeah, I have those,
But
but I also have something from 2016.
Listen, if we got to go to the zoning board, we go to zoning board. You know, I mean, it is what it is. If that what makes them feel comfortable, that's what we'll do.
Okay, no problem for me.
Okay, thanks for jumping in, Mr. Alessi. So good luck with the zoning board and
Thank you.
hope to see you at an upcoming planning board.
Okay, we'll take it to the zoning board and see what they have to say.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I'm the next guy too on the Beacon.
Okay, well, that makes it seamless. Go for it.
Okay, on Beekman, they have a nice sized piece of property. And what we want to do is put up a 4-story building with 15 two-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartments with a gym, indoor pool, rooftop outside recreational space, plus an outside recreational space in the back where we have a patio 10 or 12 feet deep. Right now, we have some changes in mind for the elevations and the rendering, which you have. The overhang portico over the driveway, we're going to remove that and put that on the face of the building. Not a portico, but just a balcony on the face of the building. This way we have no issues with fire trucks, whoever people want to access the site. There's the site. And the question is, I did a building like this, very similar, in New York City for this client about 15 years ago, where we had 15 parking spots for 15 building in New York. And we have a single direction driveway. Are you saying that it's required to have a 2-way driveway? 2-way traffic driveway?
Well, that's typically what's required for development in the village. And I guess the question is, if you're not providing that, what happens when you have 2 vehicles that are coming
right
at each
yeah.
other? I mean, that creates a potential conflict, right?
It could. I was just making a sidebar comment that we've done this very similar thing before without issue. What I was suggesting, if possible, I would have a little, not a turn off, but, at some point where one of the cars could go, into the 25-foot by 10-foot area. So one of the other 2 cars could pass and then they would go back out into the traffic as an option. Or we have to put a double driveway in and we're kind of tight. I might be able to get 16 feet, but we're going to cross that bridge. But if it's not a requirement, I'm not sure if the client wants to comply with that. I'd have to discuss it with him. Okay, and these are the architectural things here. We would meet with the fire department to go over fire department access. They have to say. Also, we have a compactor on the site, and the porter of the building, he would be coming out and taking out the trash on pickup day. And I'm assuming that they have the town pickup, that they don't have to have a private sanitation. Anybody know that one? Well, yeah, there was some comment about getting a garbage truck into the site and turning this garbage truck around. We don't look to have a garbage truck on the site. They'll just take out the sausage bags of garbage from the compactor and put them at the curb on pickup day.
Sean, what's the policy on multifamily?
The village could provide service. It depends though, as far as accessing the property and how much garbage, depends on how many units, but it is possible to have municipal services take care of it.
Okay, thank you. Our engineering firm, I believe, is on the call.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what was that? Michael Stein?
Michael Stein with Hudson Engineering.
How are you doing, Michael?
Good.
Could
How
you
you doing?
address some of these other questions that were presented about percolation, test pits, et cetera?
Yes. We actually are, and our office had worked on the site immediately adjacent to the site at 30 Andrews Lane. I'm sure the board is very familiar with that site. So we've already done percolation and deep hole testing there. In anticipation of this application, we utilized at least those results to put together a preliminary stormwater mitigation plan. Now that we're before the board and an escrow account has been established, we'll be coordinating with Dolph Rothfeld's office to perform percolation and deep hole testing and design the site or design the stormwater mitigation accordingly. Of course, once any changes to the site have occurred.
Have you considered using geothermal heating and cooling at the site?
I'll defer to
We have not.
the project's architect.
We have not at this point.
Would you?
If my client is so inclined, sure.
Okay, good.
Is there anything else there, Michael, on that you have to respond to?
At this point, I mean, we're very preliminary. We don't have any of the testing results completed, so I really couldn't comment very much more. However, looking at the site immediately next door that we've already done the testing on, we've already witnessed very favorable results within a very close proximity. So we are very confident that we can design a stormwater mitigation plan to accommodate these improvements.
Okay. Chris, do you have the rendering?
Yeah.
Could you put that up? Christopher?
Yeah.
Could you put up the elevation?
The elevation?
The rendering.
Can you see that?
All I have is the site plan.
Huh.
Hey, Chris. Well, that's the front elevation. Anyhow, what I'm saying, this, you can look at from the elevation, but I'd like to see the rendering, is eliminate this portico over here. That's what I said, we don't have any issues with trucks or fire trucks or anything that might have to access the site. We'll put that balcony in the front of the building. And there are two other balconies themselves on the second floor at the end of the structure, which we might eliminate also to avoid any conflict with trucks. You have the rendering? No?
It's not up.
All I got is the elevation.
Huh.
Sorry.
How does the elevation?
Oh. Well, you know, this big portico in the driveway, we're going to eliminate that. And perhaps the other couple of balconies down towards the end of the building, if there any potential conflict with a fire truck or something like that.
Can you see it now, Jimmy?
Yeah, I have it up there. Thank you. And, you know, we haven't discussed the exterior finishes yet much with the client, but having done buildings for him in the past, more than likely this will be an EIFS facade or a brick facade. I don't believe he has any interest in, no interest in vinyl siding or aluminum this or aluminum that, or the concrete shingles. But anyhow, this is basically our proposal. We see your comments. We would like to comply with as many of them as we can before we meet again. You know, laying out certain things, see if we could widen this driveway up into 2 lanes. And that's pretty much it.
When you come back to us, it would be helpful to see this rendering in contrast to the neighboring buildings, both in terms of the massing of the building as well as the character of the Beekman Ave along that stretch.
So like a streetscape, okay.
You-
We can do that.
What's the height of this proposal versus the neighboring
Well, this
structure.
is 4 stories. Most of the buildings there are 2 or 3 stories. I'd have to check it out, but I believe that's the situation. The current building that's on this site now is 3 stories. So we could do the streetscape for you, not a problem.
Okay.
Just one other comment. If I don't think I saw in the site plan any indication of designation for bicycle parking for the tenants. It would be,
We can provide that.
yeah, I think
Not a
that would
problem.
be an important amenity to have.
Okay. We can do that. I mean, you know, sorry.
Okay.
I was looking at the indoor pool, and then outside we have the patio, we got the gym, and we got the rooftop recreational. So I'm hoping that we far exceed the 1,500 square foot common recreational space for the clients.
Well, it's certainly has a lot of amenities, and so that's nice to see coming into the inner village.
Okay.
Do you think you can get these questions and the meetings with our fire safety departments done in time to come back on March 18th?
March 18th. My wife's birthday.
Is that a no?
It's okay. It's okay. She doesn't mind me going out. Yeah, we can get, you know, I mean, Chris, you can revise the plan. You can revise the rendering. Also, you know, we got to do a streetscape. And you say your fire safety people, is that the local fire department?
Yep.
Somebody, it is the local fire department. Okay, I will see, you know, we can call them up and ask to come up next week and show them what we're proposing and see what they have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I would coordinate that through the building department, through Mr. McCarthy.
Okay. Okay.
Any other suggestions from Sean, Dave, James, so that this applicant can be of utmost preparedness on March 18th?
I just want to say I agree with Mr. Stein's statements. You know, I think the drainage shouldn't be an issue here, but we still, you know, we'll still do the test and we'll check that out. And I understand that, you know, the project team will be looking at widening that driveway, which I appreciate. I also would like to look into more of the site circulation with the parking spaces in the back. I think Mr. Smith and I both mentioned it in our review memo. So just take a look at that, getting into and out of the spaces, dimension up the spaces in the aisles.
Right.
Show
Mention
how
all
that's
this
going to
out.
work.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
And you probably need to plan for some electric vehicle charging as well.
Electrical vehicle charging? Interesting. Wave of the future. Okay. Let me say one thing else here. Yeah, in the building construction, more than likely is going to be framed or light gauge steel framing. The last one I did for this client was light gauge steel framing. So we have to talk to the client to see what he really wants to do here.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Anything else before we schedule you for March 18th?
Let me ask one question. Did all the submittals have to be sent in a week before?
Yeah, what's the date? That's a good question.
You should have them in by March 4th.
Okay, Christopher, you see any issues with March 4th? Because today is what, the 18th or something? Gives us like 2 weeks. So I can see we could do the architectural in 2 weeks. And Michael or James, will you be able to put more into this as far as the, you know, all these tests and everything that they want done by the 4th?
We'll be coordinating with James' office, and as soon as we can do the percolation default testing, we'll get them completed, and we'll have revised calculations prepared.
Okay.
I think that's about all we can say.
That's fine. Well, thank you for listening to us, and we will keep this moving along and see where we go. Okay?
Okay, terrific. We appreciate that, and see you in March.
Okay.
You want to, Madam Supervisor, do you, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, do you want to set a public hearing?
Yes, I move to set a public hearing. No.
Don't have enough information yet.
Okay.
And we have important issues that haven't been resolved yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
would
what are we
suggest that
setting
they-
for March 18th? Another discussion?
Yes.
I guess so, just to look and see what we've been able to, you know, accommodate you in as many things as we can.
I would suggest focusing on the density, the site circulation, and then based on that, then go to your engineering studies. So I would get the architecture and
Yes.
layout done first.
We'll get that done first. We'll feed it to the engineer.
Great.
That's about it.
Thank you.
So everyone
All right.
stay safe with the snow. Okay,
Will
thank
do.
you very much.
Thank
Appreciate your
you.
time. Bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay, last on the agenda is another preliminary discussion of 7 Birch Close. Who is speaking to that?
Hi there,
Hello.
I'm Mitch. I'm here with Mike Stein, I saw, and I think Beth Evans. We're all out here in cyberspace together. And I want to start off by saying I feel, and my clients are watching, I think, as in the public mode. I didn't really understand about Mr. Smith's comment about mitigation. And I sort of thought, oh yes, well, this would be just planting. In fact, it's been made clear, and I listened to your work session before. I just wanted to be clear that mitigation plan to address the disturbance within the wetlands buffer area, we're absolutely on board with that. So, and we'll definitely provide that for next time. One simple question I have is, what kind of planting mitigates disturbance in a wetlands buffer, for example? I mean, are we talking about just non-invasive?
I'm sorry, but can you describe the project and give the board an idea of what you're talking about? Thank you.
Can I share my screen here?
Absolutely.
Here's a good place to begin. Let me just move this, enlarge this. So essentially, it's a large site. Most of it is wetlands. You can see this. Along here is where the river runs. You can see it in the 1,000-foot delineated map. There's a funny house here at the top. It's the second to last property before we get up to Phelps. And currently on site, there's an existing patio, which you can see here. It's just, basically it's paving stones on grade, a shed, a ramp, some walkways, and some chain link fencing. And as you can see from my map, the arc here of the 100-foot wetlands buffer was based upon Evans Consulting's layout of these flags, which you can see along here in the survey. And the protuberant spot is, if you can see right here, there's a culvert, a drainage culvert that drains into the wetlands from the street above. And that kind of generates the far reach of the wetlands area. And essentially, what we would hope to do would be to put some decks on the house to experience some outdoor space, right? And, you know, as proposed, on the south side, there would be a covered dining porch, a walkway that would connect you to another deck. And that would be a very narrow walkway, like 3.5 feet wide. And then essentially a deck here, and then a deck off the living room with stairs down to the grass. And we were hoping to do a stone patio so that they could have a fire pit. I think I can say on behalf of my clients that if the stone patio were an absolute deal breaker, it could be a deck, because I had always assumed a deck is not impervious. Essentially, you're putting some sonotubes into the ground. And so the impact is minimal on the buffer area. So, I mean, I would be really eager to have feedback from you on that. And I know that Mike and Beth Evans have stuff that they want to add. I would go on to say that preliminarily, because we haven't had the opportunity to dig a test pit, I'm sorry here, I'm going to do this better. I'm sorry, Mike's guys have posited putting some Cultex here, but we could put them outside of the buffer zone too. I mean, for that matter. So, I mean, that's an approach that we are going to look at. So that's it. Essentially, this is a modest proposal of some decks, and normally it would be nothing if it weren't for the buffer zone, obviously. So back to the question. I also want to say that these contour lines I transcribed from the GIS map. In fact, even though this photograph down at the bottom here is very distorted, there's not as deep a swale as you see in this drawing. I can tell that. But essentially, as I said, we are, you know, eager to comply, just to do what we need to do to be able to you know, really provide this site with like outdoor space that's attached to the house. Period. So
the footprint of the house and the exterior stays the same, other than the decks and patios.
the house won't change at all, with the exception of enclosing. There's a little recessed doorway now. This is not within the buffer zone on the street side. We thought we'd enclose that and build a entry porch, but that's not in the buffer zone area.
Right.
Otherwise, there's no change at all to the envelope. It just seemed like a no-brainer that you really want to have decks here and really enjoy the view. And I have some photographs of the view, but I'm sure you've seen it. I saw that there was a similar sort of case that was undertaken for some neighbors down the road, which is how I ended up hiring Mike and Beth Evans. So I presented this as part of the package, but the views are spectacular. As you can see here, really wonderful. And this is this paving that we propose to remove, chain link fence, shed, this kind of stone walkways. And then you can see the very steep slope, and then down below we have our wetlands. So, back to the question of mitigating plantings. Could someone expand on that a little bit for me, what that would actually
Mitch, why don't, if it's all right with the chair, why don't I take over and just give a little description of the yard area around the house?
Thank you, Beth.
Beth Evans, I'm sorry, I can't seem to get my video working, but that is actually a blessing for all of you. I am the wetland scientist who did the delineation. Actually, I shouldn't say I did the delineation. I asked my colleague, who's younger and more nimble than I, to climb down the bluff through the landscape debris that I think the previous owners, landscapers, had probably thrown down there, and actually flag the edge of the wetland that is probably 20 or 30 feet below the yard area for this house. So we did that, and what is left at the top of the hill, top of the bluff, as you see, is kind of this odd fenced-in yard area with a shed and some bluestone pavers around. And to me, it makes perfect sense to put a deck around this house so that the new owners can enjoy the outside and enjoy the beautiful view that they have. And to me, this area where the old pavers were and where there was an old fire pit makes perfect sense to do some replanting and some shrubs to enhance the buffer at the top of the slope.
Beth, are you there?
I think we've lost her.
All right. Well, I take her point that I think she's talking about some shrubs here. And we would submit this for the next hearing, of course. At the same time, Mike, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Do you want to pipe in?
I don't think there's much more that I can say. I mean, we still have to do our field testing. There's a few different places that we need to look at. If the screen is unshared, I can, or if you have our plan up.
Yes.
I mean, basically, we are looking at initially a stormwater Coltex system or drywall system to the rear of the house. It's not taking credit for anything that any existing impervious surfaces that we were removing. But once we do our field testing, we'll know exactly what we need to do.
And I apologize for dropping off the call, but just to finish, when Michael does his testing, we'll certainly know what the soil conditions are, but I would anticipate that we can plant some native shrubs and do some mitigation at the top of the bluff to offset the encroachment of the buffer from the new deck and terrace.
And just to add in, we're talking elevations of about 20 to 30 feet difference between the grade around the back of the patio and proposed deck down to where the actual wetlands are.
Right.
So to everybody's point, this is a magnificent spot. It's got spectacular views, and you have the whole wetlands. And so all of that needs to be fully investigated and analyzed, and we need to make sure there is no further erosion. And so after you've done that analysis and have developed your mitigation plans, let us know when you're ready to come back before the planning board. One comment I would make is our expectation is that the entire plan for not only the house, but also the property and the mitigation strategies all have to be done in one fell swoop. It can't be done in, a latter phase as financing becomes available. We would need you to, complete the whole job in one effort.
Understood. Any other questions? I hear none. Thank you for your help on this. And we'll be back and try to get in on, here's the clients. Hi, folks.
Hi, it's Ed and Karen Dandridge. Just wanted to clarify the last question regarding financing. We're not sure where that came from. This is not an issue of financing.
I had said that we had deferred the planting till later. And I made a comment about just recovering from the overall construction. But since this is an integral part of this process, I misspoke, and if I could take it back, I would.
Okay, good. That's a good update. Thank you. Okay. Well,
time frame, if they're anticipating being ready for the next meeting or not.
Absolutely.
So does the board want to schedule a public hearing?
I kind of want to hear Beth Evans to weigh in since.
Well, I'm back, so I'd be happy to weigh in and answer any questions you have before I get caught off again.
Well, the sense is most of the heavy lifting relative to the wetlands mitigation is going to be on your plate. So are you going to be ready
and
for March?
I have no issue with getting that plan together and back to you by March 4th. That's easy.
Okay.
There's one thing about this property, it's a big piece of property, but there's relatively limited area to do anything meaningful in terms of mitigation. And I think it's pretty straightforward what, in my opinion anyway, what should be done and where. So I'm happy to get a plan back to you for your next meeting.
What is the acreage for that, for this property?
It's about bear with me, I'm sorry.
I believe it is 1.66, Mitch.
1.66?
Right.
Thank you.
And much of that 1.66, as you can see, the top of the bluff really is shown there. Most of the 1.66 is the bluff, and then the wetlands that are adjacent to the Metro North railroad tracks, looking out toward the Hudson. So really we're confined up at the top of the bluff to a fairly small area that is actually used as residential. And we can easily enhance what's there to be better blended into the existing trees and the existing landscape on the property. So,
Okay, well, if Miss Evans feels she can be ready for submission of all the documents by March 4th, then I guess, Sean, we can set a public hearing for March 18th.
Great.
All right.
You need a motion and a vote?
Yep, so moved.
Second.
Kirsten, second. Aaron,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Lindsay,
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
All right, so we'll see you back here on March 18th, 2021.
Thank you all.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
You too. Okay, last is the meeting minutes. Did anyone have edits or comments? I assume everyone had a chance to read them.
I had a minor edit I mentioned to Pam, and she replied that she received it, but I don't know if it made it to the revised minutes. And it was about for the County House Road subdivision. There's mention of a stormwater easement, but I don't know if somebody just didn't say it right during the meeting or if it was mistranscribed, but it was it should have been a discussion about sanitary sewer, not storm drain.
Do we want to approve them as amended by James, or do we want to defer till March 18th?
Approve as amended. I move.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Matt has second. I vote aye. Marjorie. Aaron?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Last time.
Okay, so you abstain. And I do want to call out that our Riverwalk mural got an Arts Westchester Award. So kudos to Aaron and to Kirsten for their leadership on this fabulous project. Everyone's really enjoying it. So thank you. Look forward to your next creative project for this year. And we also have Sleepy Hollow election, village election on March 16th. So make sure to vote. And with that, I move to close this meeting.
Second.
Lindsay seconds. Ed?
Aye.
Kirsten?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
All right, well, get out there and shovel and stay safe and stay warm.
You too.
All right, good to have you back,
you.
Lindsay.
Guys, nice to see you.
Okay, good night.
Night.
Good night.
Aye.